about not being very serious.
Scotty Reed here with a Black Talk Radio News Report. And today is both of the AFC and NFC championships for the NFL to determine who will go into the Super Bowl. Now, this particular story that I want to share with you that's related to professional sports actually intersects with several different people activities as defined by counter-racist Neely Fuller. Let me see, this following story will intersect with economics, entertainment, law, and politics. So you got four different people activity areas that we're going to look at here. Now, let me state this first. First of all, I do not compare athletes, multi-million-dollar athletes, some of them getting paid tens of millions a year to play, maybe not in the NFL, maybe, 2, 3, 4, 5 million a year. I do not compare those people to enslaved Africans or any kind of slave, period. I mean, when do slaves get paid millions of dollars? Now, I know some people want to look at when these athletes get physicals and you want to compare that to enslaved Africans being checked out by possible buyers and whatnot, checking them out to make sure they ain't sick or nothing like that. Listen, when I went in the United States military, I had to go through the same thing, had to go through a physical. All right, many jobs that require physical activity require you to do a physical. They want to make sure that you're healthy enough to do the job. And so, again, this is people not being serious about certain things, and it just belittles actual slaves, especially those who are on the prison plantations today. All right, you don't see corporations paying lots of money to prison slaves to do endorsements of their products. I know, there's Uncle Ben rice, or you got Aunt Jemima pancake syrup, but those are fictional characters. Those aren't real slaves. They may be based on historic slave figures, but they're not actual slaves, okay? And they would never get any of the prison slaves who are helping to provide their services or products or whatnot. They would never pay these people money to be in a television commercial, all right? Because they want to keep that type of slavery, prison slavery, hidden. So let's just get that out the way. I don't even want to engage in that sort of nonsense, all right? Now, I have stated before that these athletes, man, they do a lot for their community. There's a lot of resources coming to various communities through these athletes, whether these athletes are going out raising money through their own personal foundations that they have set up, or whether they're lending a hand to other organizations that's trying to do things for poor people, okay? Now, but there's a story coming out of North Carolina where I live. And this is an old story, but I want to bring it up because it is relevant to the football games that's being played now and the tremendous amount of revenue that's being generated. Well, last year in 2015, the North Carolina Republicans, and I'm going to share this article, portions of this article with you from the Charlotte Observer. Senate Majority Leader Harry Brown, and he's a Republicans, you have a Republican who is the former mayor of Charlotte, who is the governor of North Carolina, but the state Senate and the state House is totally controlled by Republicans. Now, this is what he said. This is what the Senate Majority Leader said. His name is Harry Brown. He said he wants to address the state's growing gap between urban and rural counties by changing how sales tax revenues are distributed. The shift could give more money to 80 poorer counties while leaving multi-million-dollar budget holes in some urban and coastal counties. Now, this isn't 100% socialism, but some people would define it as socialism. They would also define it as wealth redistributions. Now, we got Bernie Sanders running for the Democratic nomination for president, and he is self-described as a socialist Democrat. And so you got all these people talking about, oh, he's a socialist, blah, 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 blah. socialism is the enemy and all. But look, the United States practices various forms of socialism. It's in their constitution where it talks about collecting taxes for the public good, whether that's roads, hospitals, schools, whatever. It's all a form of socialism. All right. But these are Republicans who are engaging in what I'm going to call racial socialism. Now, why are these poor counties so poor? Well, first, let me just say this. Most of these counties that they are talking about are so poor in North Carolina are mostly rural counties that are predominantly white. I live in one of those predominantly white counties, okay? And there really are no jobs, okay? North Carolina used to be a textile leader in the world. You had cotton mills and textile factories all over the place, but those jobs went overseas. And if any of them are coming back, they're going to the prisons, to utilize the prison slave labor. So there's a lot of unemployed people here in North Carolina. And so when people aren't working, they're not paying taxes. And so that's why these predominantly white counties are so poor. Okay. Now, when you talk about an urban area or a city like Charlotte, North Carolina, which is in Mecklenburg County of North Carolina, Charlotte has two professional sports teams. They have the Carolina Panthers, who are playing in the NFC Championship game today, and then you have the Charlotte Hornets. Now, because of the winning of Carolina Panthers, their winning record and their success throughout the season, they're bringing a whole lot of money into Charlotte by hosting these playoff games. And now they're hosting the NFC Championship, where people will come from all over the country and spend money and stay in hotels and eat in restaurants and, take the bus, public transportation, pay for cab fare. So it's going to generate a whole lot of revenue. Now, we're talking about sales tax here. So this is what these Republicans want to do. All right, they want to take money from these urban areas where you have predominantly black people, and then they want to redistribute the wealth. They want to take from cities like Charlotte and give it to poor, rural, predominantly white counties like Union County, for example, or I'm sure they're not talking about Gaston County where I live, although we could use it. And for the record, I don't have anything against providing for the public good. I think that the wealth should be redistributed. You shouldn't have the wealth gap that you have in this country. We shouldn't have poor people, period, in this country with all of this tremendous wealth that's being generated. But it's awful funny that you got these Republicans now who are always wearing the anti-socialism sleeve. They use that a lot against Obama. He's far from a socialist. I mean, he's done more to help the capitalists on Wall Street than any other president, but they have always used that as an attack against him. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. These people have no problem with lying. And so these Republicans here in North Carolina seem to don't have a problem with wealth redistribution if it's going to benefit poor white people and it's taken from the poor black people, working class people that live in Charlotte, which I believe is predominantly black. And I mean, how is that right? Now, let me say this. Now, the Bank of America Stadium, and I hate giving them a plug or anything like that because they invest in 21st century slavery, but they got the naming rights for the stadium that the Carolina Panthers play in. All right. So Carolina owner Jerry Richardson wanted to do some upgrades to the stadium. And so the Charlotte city, and he wanted the, city taxpayer money to be used. So the city council of North Carolina reached out to the state legislator, reached out to the former mayor of Charlotte, who is a Republican, Pat McCrory, and asked them to help them fund upgrades for the stadium. These Republicans in North Carolina said, no, we're not going to do that. That's socialism. That's wealth redistribution. Okay. So they didn't do it. So the city of Charlotte City Council approved the money to be allocated to the stadium for upgrades. I think they put some elevators in there, some big jumbotron screens and whatnot. So they did whatever upgrades that they did. Now that the Carolina Panthers is winning, it looks like a smart investment on the part of the city council, because that money is coming back. With as long as Carolina keeps winning, and people foresee them to be, a perennial playoff team for probably the next decade or so, that means a lot of revenue for Charlotte. Okay, but while these Republicans turned them down and said, no, that's socialism, that's redistributing wealth, we're not going to use taxpayer money from the state of North Carolina to help a billionaire owner do upgrades to the stadium that his team plays in. So, with that said, now, how hypocritical is it now for them to turn around and say, well, we're going to come up with some legislation, politics and law, and pass this legislation where we're going to change how sales tax is redistributed throughout North Carolina, because right now, all the sale tax really goes back to the place where the sale was made. It goes back to that city, that county, wherever it is in North Carolina. But now they want to take money from Charlotte, which could leave Charlotte with a budget shortfall. The new mayor, I forget her name, but she talked about creating social programs for youth to bring down the crime rate. She was like, no, we don't want to hire a whole bunch of police officers and invest a whole lot of money in law enforcement. We want to invest in our youth. Now, will they still be able to do that if they lose millions of dollars in sales tax revenue that was generated in the city of Charlotte because of the city of Charlotte investing in local professional sports? Come on now, that is not right. It's just not right. Again, for the record, I ain't got a problem with helping people who need help the most, who are less fortunate and whatnot. But I just wanted to point out the hypocrisy of these North Carolina socialist Republicans. Yeah, they believe in socialism and redistributing the wealth if it's going to benefit white people. But, if it's going to benefit black people, no, we don't want to do that. No. All right. This has been Scotty Reed with a Black Talk Radio News Report. Support independent black media by making a donation to the nonprofit North Carolina-based Black Talk Media Project.